its institutions.
Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Now, in August last year, there was the reportage of the procurement of MiG-27 aircraft by Iqbal Atas. Now, I'm sure the audience knows what happened to that particular case and indeed that particular reporter. Now, if you don't have an informed public, if you don't have a free and fair media that is able to report on issues of corruption, you obviously don't have a public that is aware of the larger issues to take action then against them. So, you know, if there is no informed public, if there is no media able to report on these issues, how then do you proceed? You also, I mean, also in line with your earlier point that institutions themselves are weakened.
Yeah. Now, when you talk about institutions, that is, there are many institutions. You have to start with the parliament. Parliament is an institution.
That's right.
And most of the countries' corruption is tackled through parliamentary committees. I mean, let's make no mistake that parliament has the prime responsibility to protect public finance in any democracy, including Sri Lanka.
And how would you feel that has gone in Sri Lanka?
No, Sri Lanka, it has never been the case. But of course, they have. I mean, how can you have a parliamentary oversight in Sri Lanka when there are 109, almost half of the members in the executive? That's why the parliament is now, in a sense, distorted to a great extent. And also the parliamentary committees, finance committees, are not open to public. In that situation, there cannot be effective parliamentary oversight here. Okay, parliament is one institution. It has not done anything on the MiG issue that you are referring to. Then the other institutions are ad hoc institutions like, Bribery Commission, Human Rights Commission and the stuff.
You said ad hoc. What do you mean by
ad hoc institutions, those are specifically, basically they have been designed to address one particular issue. Now in this case, corruption. I mean, like human rights, of course, there's a Human Rights Commission, so on and so forth.
But what are you saying then?
No, what I'm saying is...
They need to be larger, broader in scope?
No, what I'm saying is, those institutions alone cannot do it without major, particularly three major institutions of the state, three limbs, legislature, executive and the judiciary are not in the correct stream.
Mr. Weliamuna, we know the condition of these three institutions that you just pointed to, and I suppose that is then, I keep coming back, that the central challenge. You know, how does a public, in the context of a country like Sri Lanka, with the condition of those three institutions as they are, bring up these issues of corruption?
My clear answer is to speak up first.
And
that's one. Secondly, allow and create a space for the public to create demand. And unfortunately, what we don't have is, I mean, those who will open their mouth and raise the issues and it dies down. We don't have an organized public response on any of these issues. I mean, look at the media also. Now the media, it can be media, and how much space media has on 17th Amendment issue, tell me. And the singular media is completely silent on that. And the opposition was completely silent in Parliament. Of course, the English media is quite different because they cannot control, because the debate is there in English. And so that the English-speaking community will pick it up, but that is less than 10% of the country. You got to look at the vernacular, Sinhala and Tamil. Those media is not giving space. Similarly, other institutions...
Is not or cannot?
Is not giving.
Is not giving.
I think it can if they want to. But the problem is whether they are doing their duty. I am raising this, I have raised it in various forums.
The specific example, though,
of course, 17th Amendment.
Of Mr. Atas, though, is of a reporter who did bring up the issue.
Yes, in English media.
And can't write.
Of course.
Again. Yes. And has stopped his column, even in the limited audience of the English media.
Precisely so. But
do you feel that if it is a responsibility of the vernacular journalists to bring this issue up more and create an informed public, they actually have the space today to do so?
I mean, I'm convinced that if there was space given for public opinion...
given, but do they have the
space?
They have not given.
Question. They have not given.
That's right.
I mean, they have not given. That is one of the reasons. Even anti-corruption issues, governance issues have been limited because the people who are raising it have not been given, they have not, information is not covered. I can give you one classic example. On the 17th Amendment issue, the day after the Constitutional Council ceased to operate, there were at least 17 press releases issued by 17 organizations within one day. Not a single media carried that. Why? Are they not interested? Do they understand 17th Amendment? In my view, if they understood 13th Amendment so well, there is no reason why they can't understand 17th Amendment. So simple.
Now, you work with these institutions, you work with the Commission, you work with the AG's department, and in your newsletter, your most recent one, you say that you're actually working with them to support them and to give recommendations where necessary. What has that experience been? Are they receptive to the recommendations that you have given, and have you managed to strengthen them somehow through TI's work?
I'm convinced that most of the institutions feel the same way that we feel. They are also lacking that leadership. When I say leadership, it may not be political leadership, institutional leadership, wherever they have. At the same time, don't forget the fact that Sri Lanka has created, in a sense, a history where senior public servants formed into an association called Clean Hands Campaign to fight against corruption. Very limited the resources they have. Probably they can't do as much as we like, but at least that's something credible, and we have to commend that.
And are you working with them as well?
Yes, of course.
Right.
Of course, we are working with them, and we know that there are a lot, and I would say 90% of the Sri Lanka's public service is quite good. They are quite willing to. But the problem is the rest of that 10% is totally dependent on political leadership, and they are, if I may use the word, they are stooging. They are not public service delivery is not within their they are not doing anything. Look at the other basic sector is corporations. Now corporations are
private corporations.
No, public corporations.
Right.
Public corporations, now those are dependent on public money. How are the people selected? All defeated candidates, those who work for ministers, and once they are appointed, they can be removed at will, and ultimately they have to work for minister and nothing else.
But I'm sorry, Mr. Weliamuna, you see the problem that you're referring to is clearly quite one of favoritism and nepotism.
Sure.
Now, arguably the general public are the ones who elect these people into power. Political parties are accountable to their vote base. Now, if the vote base doesn't animate themselves, it doesn't come into a collective to demand these things, then can you really blame these individuals for doing what they do?
You are raising the question of where to begin actually.